You guys absolutely killed this. Like, seriously, I love you guys. Our first volume of creepy music and children's games featured a collection of eerie and unsettling soundtracks from childhood games we all love. The video featured 6 songs, and I have a secret. I have more. Twirlybug told me that I owe everyone another video, and he's right. From personal picks to some you all suggested in the comments of the last video, let's officially crack open the second volume of scary music and children's games and take a listen. I hope you enjoy. Rayman, joining players' library since 1995, found its fair share of success. Players just loved this goofy platformer and earned enough recognition to develop a sequel, Rayman 2: The Great Escape. Rayman 2 flipped the script and changed its style to a 3D environment that would inspire other hit PlayStation titles such as the Sly Cooper series. Filled with colorful characters and animals, this game surprisingly featured many dull and gray environments. This is fine, as the soundtrack typically doesn't sway these areas to be creepy or unsettling, except for one. Finding your way to the Tomb of the Ancients, players are exposed to large spiders, various ghouls, dark water, and our first entry in today's list, an eerie soundtrack. Why do children's things have to be so scary? Many horror locations find players in the midst of a child's room with creepy and obscure dolls and figures. Something about this being accompanied by a simple lullaby can successfully put players at the edge of their seats. Well, let's dive into another sequel, this being Pokemon Black and White 2. In the previous Black and White title, we are rivaled by a trainer named N. He was a major plot point, and in Black and White 2, we see very little of him. Toward the end of the game, players find themselves following Zoroark, who leads us to N's castle, a famous location from the first game. Everything is destroyed and in ruins, and we find N waiting for us. We enter N's childhood room and get greeted to this soundtrack. What makes this even more disturbing is the fact that N stayed here, even while the castle was abandoned and destroyed. He mentions that this room is his entire world and meant everything to him. The broken blocks and destroyed toys is all that's left. It's very depressing when you think about it. Those who watched the last iteration of this series will remember that we featured another song by this guitar-strumming pooch from Animal Crossing. I'm on to you, KK Slider. You all told me that while KK Dirge was a creepy song, KK Lullaby was a good contender. I'll be honest, I was almost not going to include this in this video, as while the soundtrack is creepy, it's rather slow and without much visual, lacks efficient horror. However, so many mentioned this soundtrack, so I decided to give it a full listen, and I see what you mean. The song seems to randomly transition at times to a distorted, almost reverse-sounding instrumental. It comes at very unsuspecting times and almost acts as an audio jump scare. Just take a listen. I should have honestly named this video Scary Music and Children's Game Sequels. Next up is Pikmin 2, where we follow the classic Captain Olimar and his companion Louie looking for some treasure. Using our trusted Pikmin, we move from world to world until we discover the Submerged castle. Water levels are always scary, but luckily the name doesn't follow the environment. The Submerged castle is more like an underground cave with water elements. Don't lower your guard though. Following this is a collection of creepy, red-eyed, bug-themed enemies, and the only thing worse is the background music. Let's hear it. really quite understood the Worms franchise. It's a goofy turn-based battle game with each player controlling, well, a worm. Who am I to judge, as this franchise has an overwhelming audience that has led to over a dozen games being created, with the most recent one being in 2020. Well, back in Worms Armageddon, we're able to face our enemies while enjoying the screams of terror from a song called Hell. This background music is already ominous enough, but what's worse is the occasional cuts to sinister laughs and shrieks of agony. We hear multiple voices in the background, with many seemingly being tortured. Before we get into our last soundtrack for today, I do want to give an honorable mention to Disc 13 from Minecraft. Many mentioned it in the comments of the last video, and while it is creepy, I really did only want to include one of the Minecraft discs in this series. If you watched the first iteration, you will know that I chose Disc 11, but it is worth hearing Disc 13 as it is very ominous and somewhat mysterious. So without further ado, here it is. Finally, to conclude our video today, let's jump back into Pokemon. This time, Pokemon Ruby. Pokemon Ruby features the legendary Pokemon Groudon, who our antagonist attempts to reawaken in hopes of causing a drought that essentially expands the land by drying up the water. I know, it's a bizarre theme, but we go underground, and the Pokemon gets reawakened, and surprise, surprise, things get a little out of hand. Groudon attempts to consume all oceans and essentially terminate life as we know it. We leave the underground and upon resurfacing, get greeted by a change of music. Instead of the happy, natural soundtrack that normally encompasses the wild, we get this. That's all that I have for you today, and I hope you enjoyed. As always, leave any suggestions in the comments, and if I see enough, a third volume will come sooner than later. Let me know if you enjoyed the video by clicking that like button, and feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications. If you haven't, you should go check out Volume 1 of this series by clicking the video here and catch up on some creepy soundtracks. Thank you all for watching, and I wish you all a wonderful day.